All right, it's still good morning, Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. And to start our conversation with borders on protecting power installations, let's take a look at this background report put together by our correspondent, Ibrahim Dan Hamidu.
Nigeria's power sector is a complex network of transmission lines, substations, and distribution systems that form the backbone of the country's economy. However, this critical infrastructure is facing unprecedented threats. In recent years, a surge in attacks on power installations has led to disruptions in electricity supply, resulting in significant financial losses and economic instability. The protection of power installations is a multifaceted challenge that requires more than just security personnel and surveillance cameras. It demands a comprehensive approach that includes legislative protocols, public awareness, and collaboration between the government, security agencies, and the public. Security experts and power sector analysts emphasize that critical national assets and infrastructures, such as power installations, are essential for ensuring a stable and reliable supply of electricity. The federal government has taken steps to enhance the security of these critical infrastructures, including the deployment of special task forces and the establishment of dedicated security units. However, the question remains, are citizens playing their part in protecting these critical infrastructures? On Good Morning Nigeria, our guests will discuss the threats posed by saboteurs to Nigeria's power sector and explore ways to implement effective security measures, foster collaboration, and support the country's progress. Join us as we examine the challenges and opportunities in protecting Nigeria's power installations and ensuring a stable electricity supply for all.
All right, thank you very much, Ibrahim Hamidu, for that background report. And to get us into the conversation proper, let me start by introducing here in the studio Engineer Emmanuel Uluwagbenga Ajiboye. He is the Executive Director, Transmission Service Provider, TSP, Transmission Company of Nigeria, TCN. Thank you for joining us on Good Morning Nigeria.
Good morning, Nigeria.
All right, also joining us here in the studio, let me introduce Dr. Kabiru Adamu, Security Risk Expert. It's a pleasure, as always, to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
The pleasure is mine. Good morning.
All right, we also have our guest joining us from Lagos. Let me introduce Honorable Dabo Ismail Haruna, Chairman, House Committee on Critical Assets. He is House of Representatives member representing Toro Federal Constituency of Bauchi State. Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Critical Assets, Honorable Haruna, many thanks for joining us.
And good morning.
Beginning from here in the studio, let me speak with Engineer Ajiboye. What do we know about the level of vandalism of power installations across the country as we speak?
Presently is enormous. From the beginning of this year to today, we have recorded over about 20 attacks, leading to destruction of over 40 towers, both of 132 and 132 and 330 kV lines. And this is colossal cost of repairing. As I used to tell people, the cost of repairing could have been channeled to new projects which are being hindered by the work. Presently, from January to the year, we have lost in Borno so many towers, which we even re-erected. Third day they blasted two, Tower 193, 194. We are reconstructing it now. We are at the last stage of supply power to Maiduguri again. We are on that one. When you go to Oshogbo, they destroyed tower, but fortunately for us, the vandals, they were caught overnight. They are at Ijebu-Jesha police station now. When you go to Yenagoa also, they brought down about 3 towers, vandalism. We were still battling with that. 3 days later, on 18th, they brought down 13 numbers. So these are so enormous, and it's a source of drain to the organization. We are losing so much money. When we talk about the cost of repairing, the cost of rehabilitation, that's another one. The cost of, for the people living around that area, the industry, the people using electricity for production is more enormous than us. This throws people into joblessness, and they cause a lot of insecurity again, because when people are idle, they go for another thing. So it's so enormous on the Nigerian resources as a whole, and it is a dangerous trend we are moving on, because it keeps on increasing every day. Though we have been working with other security agents, and they have been assisting, they have been helping us. Like in the Maiduguri case, they have been able to arrest the truckload of our material being taken out. So also in Oshogbo, they have done that. In Ihoda also, it was done. But we still need to put more effort, as we have been talking to community, because these lines traverse more than 5,000 kilometers in different terrain, on sea, in the bush. So it is very difficult to be able to monitor them real time. But we are already working on another way of monitoring this line. But it's only the cost of that device, and the system is so enormous.
All right, Engineer Jiboye, talking about power installations being destroyed and vandalized, of course, didn't start today, from what you have said, and is increasing by the day. You're talking about monitoring device being expensive. So why has the TCN not, put a lot of effort and channeled resources in monitoring and protecting these power installations instead of having to repair them after they have been vandalized?
As I said, we are putting effort. But you see, it is a custom-made devices, which we have consulted so many people. We have invited for presentation. We are even in discussion with the Office of National Security Advisor on this. We have taken it to them. They are not what to get off shelf. It's going to be designed specifically for this location. And so many people have brought proposal. Look at the cost now. When we are talking about an asset, for viability of any project, you only use 10% of the cost of that asset to protect it. In a situation whereby I want to protect my asset, and in the next 4 years, the cost of protecting the asset outweighs the cost of the asset, what sense is in that? So it is not economically viable to deploy those technologies now, because they are not homegrown. And we are now talking to the federal government. How can we achieve this one? It's too big for TCN. So that is the major constraint we are having now. We have been going on this issue, and we have been discussing, how can we achieve this? Most of those facilities cannot even be brought to Nigeria without license and certification from either Nigeria. You have to use it in conjunction with Nigerian Air Force. Some of them have gone there, and the license they ask them to pay, they ask us whether they should pay. We say, no, don't pay yet until we agree whether we are going ahead or not. But now presently, that is the way, the limitation we are having. It's not only that. In everywhere in the world, we are in business. Mm-hmm. We cannot transfer this cost to consumer, because we have to earn that money. If we expend it on the project, we have to earn it from the market. And the market is so volatile now that it doesn't, to increase the tariff for electricity will be another thing. Presently, that is the constraint we are having. But we are not stopping there.
I understand. Anyway, when you say that you are looking at, of course, if you want to protect this teacup, for instance, you're not going to be spending ₦1 million protecting a teacup. Yes. It wouldn't make any sense. I get that. We'll get back here to talk about the security issues around it, but let me quickly get to Honorable Dabo, who's joined us from Lagos. It's a pleasure to see you again, Honorable Ismail Dabo, our representative. The last time you were here, we were asking, what legal frameworks there are to protect some of these assets. And that question will have to pop up again, because the last question that Engineer Jiboye asked was, how can we do this? And I'm going to throw that to you. What efforts are legislators making? Of course, your committee encapsulates what this, embodies what these efforts should be, to secure, to ensure that there's enough deterrence to those who may want to damage installations like this, public assets that is. What are the efforts being made as per legislation at the moment?
Well, we in the National Assembly as usual, we're worried on issues that has to do with public interests, most especially public assets. Under my committee, which is Public Assets Committee, is a newly created committee to look into these kind of issues, how to address them, how to make our assets to be properly utilized and well managed at all levels, not only TCN or the power companies and so on. No, general assets of the government, to see how we can give proper legislation that will give a serious check and protection to those assets. So for TCN, power assets across the country is a serious matter to us because of the economic connection. If you don't have power, it's actually a big problem to so many sectors of the economy. Production sector, the small business operators, and so on. So it's really a worrisome situation to us, and we're looking at so many amendments, so many proposal and recommendation that we'll make to straighten the way and manner we protect our national assets. So that is it for now. Thank you.
Haruna, thank you for your opening comment there. We'll get back to you. I'd like to find out from Dr. Kabiru Adamu what he thinks about all of this, because a lot of people have said, you know, power installations cannot be vandalized by ordinary Nigerians, considering what is involved. Even the normal transformer by the junction of your streets, nobody dares, you know, get close except those who understand how it functions and all of that can vandalize or, if you like, destroy them. So could you tell us, you know, from your own reading of the situation and reports about power installations and destruction and vandalization, who and what do you think is responsible, you know, for this act?
Thank you. I think I would like to start by saying that the entire sector has what I would describe as valuable assets. Now, they are valuable because their market value is high. So that means the average criminal is interested in getting his hands on those assets. The second element is the criticality of those assets. In all ramifications, if you define critical national assets, power infrastructure will come into those critical national assets. So that means anyone who wants to sabotage the country would look at power infrastructure too as a possible target. So without going deeper into the issues, there are, I would say, two major threat elements that we've identified so far that have been responsible for the vandalization of this power infrastructure. Number one, which I hate to speak about, the ideological non-state actors that are operating, especially in the northeast of the country. As far back as 2021, they came out with what they call a campaign on economy. And they identified their leader then, who has been killed. I'm talking of Islamic State in particular. They came out with what they call a fatwa and instructed their members to start attacking national power infrastructure. And it was from that time that we started seeing attacks in places like Gombe up until Borno, and then, of course, leading down to recently in Kaduna State. So that's number one. The second one are the criminal groups who are doing it for pecuniary benefits. They attack, they are able to retrieve whatever it is that they've attacked and then find a way to sell it into the market. Now, if we isolate those two, I agree with you that it would take someone who has an understanding of the power sector. Because, I mean, a layman like me, if you present a transformer to me, I don't know, if I touch it, I'm going to be electrocuted. So it has to be somebody who understands that sector. And that brings me to the third element, which is aggrieved persons within the power sector themselves. Unfortunately, over time, because of the way the power sector has been handled, I would say with all sense of responsibility, that there are a significant number of persons within the sector that feel aggrieved for one reason or the other from the various transitions that has occurred within the sector up until today. And so you have insiders who, for one reason or the other, may collaborate with the first two elements that I've mentioned. They may not be doing it on their own willingly, but because of that grief that they have with the, it could be the distribution companies, it could be TCN, or it could be any of the other elements within the sector. They are able to collaborate with these two. And so what we've seen over time is that the sector has been in a constant attack from one element or the other. And that is where we are today. But in all of this, I think the major gap, and I was really hoping that we would hear from especially the Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps that has the mandate for the protection of critical infrastructure. The major gap that I see is the market. Because no matter how these things are stolen, if you separate that first group who are doing it just to destroy, their interest is not to sell. They want to sabotage, and so they go after, they attack, they don't care, they just destroy it. Once you isolate that group, all the other ones, the intent is to sell. So if you're able to identify the market and prevent access to that market, or in better terms, regulate the market so that anyone coming in, either to buy or to sell, is regulated, then you would reduce the incentive for the person to buy. And I think that is one major area that we have failed in terms of regulating that market to the point where we know what goes in and what comes out. Not just the local market, but the international market, especially for countries around Nigeria, where, of course, because of the porosity of our borders, it's very possible when you steal from here, you can just take it across the border. And it's a two-way thing. Steal from there, bring in here. So I think that is one of the major gaps that over time, based on the studies that I've done, I wish, hopefully, maybe in the course of the conversation, if we can get somebody from, say, TCN or even the Office of the National Security Advisor to shed more light on why that ability to regulate the market up to a point where it will be very difficult. Because if you incentivize that, it makes it, I mean, why
you wouldn't want to steal if you are not going to be able to sell.
Exactly.
So anyway, these are some of the issues that
we'll respond to. We are going to get your wish about now, because I understand that the Zoom guest is ready and available to us. And let me quickly introduce from Lagos, Dr. Benito Eze, MNI, who is ACG, Assistant Controller General, Critical National Assets and Infrastructure, Nigeria's Security and Civil Defense Corps, NSCDC. It's at the national headquarters. It's a pleasure to welcome you, sir.
Good morning.
Yes. If you had been listening in, and I think you have, Dr. Kabir Adamu was just saying it would be good to hear from the NSCDC to know what is going wrong. The last time we were talking about, oil installations. Today we are talking power installations. All of these critical national assets are within the purview of the NSCDC to protect. So why does it seem like we have the NSCDC, but these assets are not being protected?
Thank you, and good morning, viewers, once again. Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, being the lead agency in the protection of critical national and infrastructure, saddled with that responsibility, power installation and power facilities is one of them. We, as an agency, have been collaborating with other security agencies to ensure that these infrastructures are protected. Though you will understand with me that criminals always find a way to carry on with this activity. But on our own, with our state commands spread across the 36 states in Nigeria, including the FCT, have been leveraging on our personnel and equipment that we have to ensure that this infrastructure is effectively protected. We have also recently come up with the National Protection Policy Strategy document on the protection of critical national assets and infrastructure. The approach we are in is to incorporate both the community and everyone, because the protection of these national assets is the business of everybody. There is nothing we can achieve meaningfully in the progress of the country. Recently, Mr. President, the Commander-in-Chief, had the document, and I believe that put it into function long way to provide solution to this of a power sector. Also, about 2 weeks ago, we in collaboration with the corporation, our Honorable De Bayo Adelabu, to profile strategies for effective protection of these power installations. I know by the special grace of God, we are going to put that behind. Thank you.
You know, this issue is not really about prayers. It's about doing the needful to deal with this power, issue. Like Engineer Ajiboye earlier said, this is costing us a lot, and of course affecting, the power sector in general. But I'd like to find out from you in reaction to what Dr. Adamu said about the market, that the market is viable, and that is why people will continue to steal and sell. So what is the TCN doing in that regard?
Okay, thank you very much once again. Actually, when this thing was sitting up in the beginning of the year, we wrote to all the security agencies, including the civil defense. So a meeting was called by the Office of the National Security Advisor. All of us were brought together. Incidentally, what we realized, most of the attack on Abuja was done with IED. So the Ministry of Solid Resource and Mineral was also coming because they regulate that market of explosive in Nigeria. So we are trying to come together with a framework. Even the civil defense were there, military were there, Air Force, all of us were there. We have identified the market. Most of this scrap are being sold to this smelting company. And we are giving the name of all in Nigeria to the office of NSA. So they are working in a way to checkmate them. So if you even steal it, you will not be able to sell. And the culprit we are looking for, and because we learned that there is enough law to be used, but unfortunately it's not coming to the limelight. We are trying to be, from the office, they are trying to call the Ministry of Justice, Internal Affairs, to harmonize all those things, so that whoever, because we realize that you catch some people that destroy assets of 800 million naira, you sentence them to 3 months imprisonment or to pay 50,000 naira. So this is so discouraging, even when you arrest somebody and you know this will be the end that has destroyed those assets. So we have been working together, all of us. So from the Office of National Security Advisor, we have done a lot. And I think they will be in the stage of doing this law and sending it to the National Assembly on how to be able to tackle this. Because we have worked together, so many things we discussed in that meeting.
From all that you have discovered, over the years about how power installations are being vandalized, do you suspect that those in the power sector are responsible for the vandalism?
According to Doctor, the aggrieved one might be. But let us get one thing clear. Most of the people working in power sector, they don't do most of the construction. We have EPC contractor that does it. They engage different people. After the termination or the completion of the project, those people are thrown back into open market. They can be collaborators. But let me tell you, Nobody, especially in TCN, I can hold brief for TCN. For you, you know the cost of the asset. You know that is where you are being paid, especially now that we have gotten into energy deregulated market, that we earn money from the market, that you know if you are not being paid from the market, you might not get your salary. And you are being well paid, you will never be participating in that. You will not be interested in that because you know the strength, the strain on us whenever this thing happens. So I will rule it out that no reasonable person, no logical person, any money from any of this infrastructure will go for the destruction of the infrastructure.
But that leaves us open to the unreasonable ones. The unreasonable ones want to look at how much they're going to make from that black market and compare what you're paying them. If this pays them better, they become unreasonable, they go ahead.
Well, let me tell you, TCN, we have very dedicated work staff, very dedicated, that are well trained. Apart from the fact that we can have bad egg, which I'm not ruling out, but it's very rare. Because you know what it even means by being suspected. We have disciplinary measure that will make sure you are dismissed or sacked. You will lose all the benefits that is enormous for you to live with for the rest of your life, and you will be tarnished. So I can brief that none of us in TCN will be interested in that.
All right. So thank you very much, Engineer Ajiboye. Let's get back to Dr. Adamu now. You have told us what you think, is responsible for what we see and those who are likely to be the culprits of this. But in trying to deal with this challenge, listening to Engineer Ajiboye talk about protecting these infrastructure may cost more than the infrastructure itself. Do you think there's another way to go around this?
Yes. With all sense of responsibility. I would start by recognizing that our dear President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, in his Renewed Hope agenda, has as one of the imperatives the desire to develop a framework for protecting critical national infrastructure, which we've agreed that the power assets will come into that. And I think part of what the engineer mentioned is that is being done by the Office of the National Security Advisor with the collaboration of Ministry of Interior, which the NSCDC comes under, Ministry of Defense, and several other ministries actually. So we're hoping, and this is a call for action actually to the Office of the National Security Advisor and the collaborating ministries to quickly develop that framework, because it is that framework that will allow all the powers of government and our national powers to come together to protect this critical national infrastructure. The criticality of power to our national development cannot be overemphasized. We can spend the next God knows how many hours discussing that, but the positive correlation between stable power and our need for growth and development, I don't think there's any other sector that can support that. So it is imperative that the Office of the National Security Advisor and these other collaborative ministries quickly develop that framework. And if it requires any amendment to our laws, let the National Assembly also, with that sense of urgency, support that as quickly as possible. Now, having said that, in risk management, especially security risk management, you look at two critical risks, and luckily we have the ED of the TCN here with us, the internal risks. So I hear him when he absolves TCN staff, but there is this saying that trust is good, but control is better. So I'm hoping, I don't yet know, but I'm hoping if it exists, fine. If it doesn't exist, I'm hoping that, sir, you will work on it. Have an internal framework for monitoring and managing risk. People, especially with this cost of living crisis that we have at the moment, the tendency for people to run south is extremely high. So that's why, yes, trust them, but have control measures in place that can identify red flags. And then once those red flags are identified, of course, you deal with them. So that's for internal risk. And, there are so many issues under internal risk. Fraud is an example. Drug addiction is an example. Gambling is an example. If someone has all of these things, the likelihood that he will be corrupt is extremely high. So when you have mechanisms internally for identifying those things and dealing with them, it reduces the tendency for occurrence. And because the power sector has a lot of players within it, and TCN is just one of those players, I'm hoping that this will extend to all the other players within the sector, including vendors and contractors. Because once there is no system in place that brings all the players together, if no matter how good one is, if the others are quote unquote bad, it will affect the capacity of TCN, for instance, to perform. So that's for internal risk. Having a risk management framework that identifies internal risk and then deals with it in a manner that does not affect the functions of the organization. Now there are external risks, and we've discussed some of them. As an example, all the threat elements that we identified earlier on, TCN does not have the capacity to deal with those threat elements. If it's IS or ISWAP, as an example, TCN cannot deal with that. If it's the organized criminals who would target those infrastructure, TCN cannot deal with it. So developing a security risk management framework and a plan that incorporates, especially what the NSCDC mentioned earlier on, not just our capacity as a state to prevent, but our capacity to involve local players, especially the communities, in the protection of that national assets, I think is one area. And in doing this, I think the type of sensitization that we do, especially the awareness campaign that we do, to show the communities the relevance of power to their lives, all across, from production to health to education to security. If you explain to the community that, look, if you have power, this is what happens. However, if you don't have power, this is what happens. A lot of communities realize this, but a lot, again, don't realize it. So running a campaign that allows the community to understand that so that they are incorporated into that protection system, I think would help us. So in summary, what I'm trying to say is managing the internal risk, just like I've talked about, and then also managing those external risks. TCN can do a lot in managing its internal risk, but in the external risk, it needs the support of our security agencies.
All right. Thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adam. Let's get back quickly to Lagos, where Honorable Ismail Dabo has joined us from. Honorable, you have learned from the contributions we have had so far. The TCN man talks about, the need to have security agencies on their side. The security agency is saying, well, they need collaboration. And then Dr. Kabir Adamu is talking about, has given an analysis of what needs to be done, whether internally or, externally. But we are looking at deterrence on one part. We are looking at regulating the market on the other hand. How can legislation help in these cases?
I think having a collaboration with the security agencies, the local community, and TCN is not enough. We need to move from operating in such a manner that we cannot dictate what will happen in the next minute, 1 hour, 2 hours. We have to think outside the box. For example, there is no way you will continue to make use of people that cannot dictate when problems are coming or when people are about to attack our public assets. You take actions, security agencies normally takes actions after the criminals must have committed the crime. Then they begin to look into it on how to take action. We must advance our technology. We must use technology to prevent all the public assets, especially the transmission towards. Let's have a surveillance that can cover more than 5 kilometers or 4 kilometers. They can monitor it when the vandals are about to attack the power towers, the towers. The security agencies will actually see what is going on, and they will take action immediately. But when you said you are leaving all this protection to the local community or to security agencies for them to be alerted when these people are vandalizing, because they are corporate vandals and is a syndicate, is a serious matter that the government have to look into. There is no way a vandal will use more than 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 days vandalizing power or so many heavy equipment. And you will tell me that the security agencies or the officials of TCN and other personnel are not aware. This is a serious process. They took their time to do all these things and they transport it. In the course of transportation, we have a lot of checking points, security checking points from one location to another. And they are seeing all these things going on. So we need to do more. The TCN and the security agencies, let them meet and look on how they can get a serious modernized surveillance that can cover at least 5 or 4 kilometers away from the towers so that they can be able to protect it. And in the National Assembly will look into some of the laws that needs to be amended in order to give the security agencies, even the TCN and other distribution companies, the power companies, a clean platform for them to operate effectively and efficiently when there is need for that.
Honorable Haruna, very valid point you have made, and of course we want to see those laws, as soon as possible. But of course, some of the comments that you have made would lead me now to Dr. Eze, the Assistant Commandant General of the NSCDC. I'm sure you listened to Honorable Haruna talk about how, this crime is being committed. It's not something that happens in a few seconds. The NSCDC has the mandate to protect its infrastructure. Is the NCDC thinking outside of the box? Because every day we still kept hearing of, these power installations being vandalized, destroyed, if you like, all kinds of things going on. What is the NSCDC doing exactly? And how is it possible that this crime can take place for days? They're moved to other locations without the NSCDC matching them power for power?
That's the primary responsibility.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate the contribution of Honorable Haruna. The issue of this vandalization on these power infrastructures, most especially on the towers, as he rightly mentioned, is a syndicated approach. They operate as cartels. And even those vandals, they have their own intelligence system to monitor the movement of these security operatives. But on our own, we are deploying some technology towards protecting these infrastructures by way of surveillance and installation of some digital equipment to give us real time. And even we have gone further to deploy intelligence to get intelligence. Even we relate with the locals where these towers are located. But let me inform you that some of these towers are actually situated in a very remote area. Some of the areas are even very, very difficult to access. Taking, for instance, the incident that happened, was it in April this year, towards Suleja, Niger area. My personnel, they had to literally stay in the bush for almost 3 weeks. And that was why what contributed to the success we recorded during that time, because these vandals, when we got the intelligence that these vandals were moving towards the Niger and the Suleja axis. So we had to deploy our personnel who collaborated with these leaders to get intelligence. And we maintained static deployment of personnel. And that was why we recorded good success. So as the vandals are increasing their own way of intelligence and operation, we are also making necessary effort. And even the proposals we have made, we are working on deployment of real-time equipment, technology equipment, so that we can get information on time before the deed is done. Because anything we are doing or coming after the vandals have already carried out their activity, I don't think is proactive. But we are trying to see the way we can deploy this technology so that it can give us a proactive response.
Exactly. Dr. Eze, you've spoken my mind by saying reacting after the deed has been done is not proactive of the NSCDC. But you made a comment earlier about the fact that the vandals also have intelligence and monitor security operators. And listening to Engineer Ajiboye at the start of this conversation, he talked about over 40 towers being vandalized this year alone. If you want to compare that with what the NSCDC has been able to do, do you think that these vandals overpower the NSCDC, or that the NSCDC lacks the capacity to carry out its mandate?
NSCDC does not lack any capacity to protect this infrastructure. Just as I earlier on mentioned, I mentioned that the aspect of protecting these infrastructures has to do a lot with collaboration, intelligence, synergy, and getting proactive information to act. So we need to leverage both on the communities where these towers are located, but the aspect of them operating 24 hours, 48 hours, if you pin down any particular location, you will find out that that particular tower maybe is located in a very inaccessible remote area. But we are, every day as the trend of this vandalism goes by, we are also doing our own best to ensure that we are able to get something reasonable so as to protect these infrastructures.
Which you have mentioned, Dr. Eze, what other challenges is the NSCDC facing in dealing with this problem?
Challenges we are facing, like the deployment of this technology. The technology is very, very expensive. So we need support so that we can deploy the technologies that are suitable to give us real-time response. And also the barrier in synergy and collaboration. If all of us can come together with NSCDC being leading and also providing enabling platform, just as my brother had mentioned, I think we will put this behind. Every day, the vandals keep on increasing their strength, keep on increasing their strategies, but we have to be ahead of them so as to avert whatever damage they want to put on the infrastructures.
Right, Dr. Benito Eze, thank you very much. I was just going to say that, if you say that the vandals are thinking all the time, then I want to ask, is the NSCDC not supposed to, outthink them, outwit them, so that before they even take a step, you have taken two. You're always ahead of them. But I thank you very much for your contributions. We understand that you have to be somewhere else about this time. We thank you for making our time to join us on this conversation. I will wish you a very great day ahead.
Thank you so much. And I believe that we are going to surmount their effort. With all of us putting our hands on the table, we are going to overcome their challenges. Thank you so much.
Let's get back here in the studio. Let me get to Engineer Jiboye quickly. Now, he talked about needing support, that they don't have what it takes in real terms to be able to, do the job that they have been assigned to do. And I'm wondering, is the TCN, doing something for the NSCDC, knowing that this is their primary responsibility, even if it's as corporate social responsibility towards them?
Yeah. Thank you very much. The typical case he mentioned on Suleja, precisely tower T70 was brought down. And we got intelligence that they will attack further. We quickly relayed to them, and they mobilized. They actually worked with us. They stayed there for over 21 days. Because of the movement of those bandits around that place. We provided what they require, mobility. We provided it during that period, and we are still working together.
Technology?
No, not technology. I say mobility.
Yeah, I'm asking now. A step further.
No, when you are talking of technology, I've told you initially about the deployment of drone, which we have been considering, and in discussion with ONSA, they are also involved. Air Force is involved. Defense headquarters are also involved in that thing. So most of the time when we're talking about enlightenment, we have this program, even it's on NTA, where we try to sensitize every community. We have this vote we have set aside to go around. Because you see, as he have said, we pass through a lot of difficult terrain. We use Land Rover, off-road vehicle to go and check those lines from time to time to know their condition and when they are fault. So what we are doing is this. We identify those community. We buy small phone for them. We go there to greet the elders, the chief. They called us. When they see people in that area that are unknown to them, they call us because we have warned them. These people are dangerous. They are always armed. Please pretend as if you don't see them. Call so that we can quickly alert the police or civil defense. And they have been helpful. They have been moving, they move. Like some of the people caught, is the community that will call us. We will now call the police or call the civil defense together. They will quickly move. And they do arrest people.
So you're saying that the community is cooperative?
They are cooperating. Most of them are cooperating because we reach out to them. We have this community meeting. We normally do sensitization. When you go to a location, you call all like a local government, you gather all the chiefs. We write letter to them. We call them. We hire a hall. We educate them. We do projection. We show them the problem. And they have been so helpful. They will call us.
Beyond having engagement with them, town hall meetings and all of that, what else is TCN? I know it's not in your purview, but of course you can attract some of this development to those communities. We talked about inaccessibility, for example. You want to site a power station somewhere and the road is inaccessible or you have a lot of barriers. What, is the TCN thinking in that regard, to speak with the right channels, just to make sure that these communities get one or two things that would, of course, make them want to help the TCN and protect these power installations?
Yeah, we work with them. We try to provide as our corporate social responsibility vote can accommodate. So in some community, depending, we are divided into region. We mandate some region. Please assess these people, like grading of the road. If we want to move our heavy equipment to our site, most of the time, it is very difficult. If the road is bad, we cannot move a big transformer. We normally do the grading of the road, try to make it more tolerable when we are working. So those are the little we can do. The percentage of what we can put on CSR is minimal throughout the whole federation. As I've told you, TCN has 177 substations.
Only?
Only. When I'm talking of substation, where we control the power individually in some location, but the towers are scattered all over in the sense that we have them at the range of 330, we have them at the range of between 400 and 450 meters. Just imagine that round. So for us to be able to do something for them, it is a bit difficult. Because in some area, let me tell you the truth, they are so hostile to us. Why? They say this tower is passing through their community, they don't have light. We are not the one giving light in that. We are bulk supplier. It is the responsibility of the distribution company to provide light. We only go and pacify in those areas and try to educate them to bear. Then we now collaborate with our disco partner. Please, is there anything you can do in this direction to give these people? Because they are agitating, they are not allowing us to. Because if we don't wield this power to you, you cannot distribute. They sometimes listen to us. If the place is viable, they work on it and work together to achieve results. These are the way we have been managing ourselves. Let me put it that way. We have been managing ourselves with the
No, but
community.
of course, you need to do more of that management because it actually makes sense, for a community to be demanding for power supply when a cable is passing through their community. I mean, because of course it takes away their farmland, it takes away access to that area. For example, they are giving you their land to be able to do all of that. So yes, you want some of those demands, and that's why I asked you about what the TCN is doing for some of these communities, just so that they show support. But I'd like to get to you, Dr. Kabiru Adamu. We have talked about the issues, and I like the position of Honorable Haruna about this, that maybe the security operatives are not doing enough. Maybe they are not thinking outside the box. Maybe they're not taking a step ahead of these vandals, because imagine individuals, just a group of individuals outpowering a security service owned by the federal government, managed with public funds. So you begin to ask, what is going on? So what would be your recommendation, speaking to security operatives who are mandated to protect the power installations?
Maybe let me start with speaking to the dear honorable that is together with us. Apart from legislation, another power, as it were, that the legislators have is oversight. They also have the power of the budget. They know how much they have provided to, let's say, the NSCDC. And when they provide that, the NSCDC gives them a breakdown of what it wants to do with that money. Now, if the protection of critical national infrastructure is within the budgetary demands by NSDC, and the National Assembly approves that budget, then it makes a lot of sense that during oversight, just like the Honorable has told us, I mean, if I will quote him, theft of power infrastructure will occur for hours or days. Now, during oversight, I expect that his committee will sit with the relevant security organizations, starting from NSCDC and the other ones that have mandate for protection of national assets, to ask them, hey, we've given you X amount of money, but just like we've been told, 40 incidents resulting in the collapse of 20 towers. Come on. Even if you are in primary school and they give you that statistics, that's a failure. And so I expect our legislature to sit with the security agencies and ask them during oversight conversations and discussions, why is this thing happening? You've asked for money, we've given you money, but yet these things are happening. But having said that, and I still go back to the point made by Engineer Ajiboye, protection of critical national assets requires collaboration of several agencies. Surveillance, I didn't want to go into the details of the external risks that were discussed earlier on, but the protection of our critical national assets, there are so many responsibilities that comes to my mind when we discuss that. Surveillance, as an example. Engineer Ajiboye talked about how expensive technology is. Yes, technology is expensive, but I make bold to say it mustn't be the TCN that would buy that technology. As an example, we have a National Space Center. We also have NICOMSAT. We also have several other organizations. Now, I don't know the details of the conversations going on at the Office of the National Security Advisor, but if the Ministry of Science and Technology is involved, then I hope that the agencies under Ministry of Science and Technology would also be brought on board. Surveillance can be done in different forms. The simplest surveillance is by the community, which we've discussed. It doesn't cost much, except for what the engineer has mentioned. But if you want that sophisticated kind of surveillance that requires either drones or requires space technology, it's possible, but it mustn't be done by TCN. If we already have an agency of government that has that responsibility, how do you extend a handshake to that agency of government so that the services being rendered to us as Nigerians can be extended to this very critical national infrastructure? And that is the role that the National Assembly
should
should play. Because
right.
all of I talked about legislation, I talked about oversight, I talked about budgeting. Now, in doing that, I'm hoping that the committees that have that responsibility would remove their cap and think in that manner to say, okay, what is the expertise that is required to achieve what do we want to achieve? Protect critical national infrastructure. And every agency of government that had that responsibility should be put together in one room to say, bring your contribution. If every agency in government says it wants to carry it itself, frankly, we don't even have the money for that. And I think that's part of the challenge that I'm seeing at the moment.
All right. Thank you very much, Honorable Kabira, Dr. Kabira Damu, for your recommendation so far. Of course, we'll take a break now. When we return, we'll get to Honorable Dabo to respond to some of the issues. Please stay with us. All right. Thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. And as we go into the last lap of this conversation on protecting power installations, let me get back to Honorable Ismail Haruna Dabo, who joins us from Lagos. Honorable, you've listened to Dr. Kabir Adamu. He talked about legislation which we have raised earlier. He talked about budgeting, the power of the purse, which the National Assembly has, and then oversight as part of the ways that these issues can also be solved. How do you respond to these?
Thank you. Yes, the National Assembly were responsible for working on the budget, the national budget. After the budget, we go on oversight to check what we have done, what we have passed as an act. Then as well, if our laws required amendment, we do that as well. When it comes to issue of national assets, it's beyond making budget oversight and amendments to our bills or to our laws. It goes down to those people that are responsible, in making sure that our public assets are protected, our public assets are kept in a manner that nobody can have access to them. If that has been done, or if the security agencies will ensure that that has been done, then I don't think we'll be discussing about regular destruction of public assets. For the civil defense, I'm sorry to say this, to be honest, they are not doing enough. It appears that the responsibility given to them to protect critical public assets is a serious task that needs to be reviewed. The government need to review the responsibility given to them. Bring in more experts into the protection of public assets. We can not continue to be operating in an analog manner. We have to upgrade. If you look at developed countries, they don't discuss how to talk to local communities to give you information before you protect critical national assets. You have to begin to lobby or to bribe people for them to give you information. What if the criminals are doing better than you by giving them what you don't give them? It is out of context for us to be thinking in that direction. Let's look at what other developed countries are doing. You must deploy the necessary equipment, surveillance, and so many other technology for you to be able to protect these assets. And these assets are worth billions of dollars, some of them, some millions of dollars. So it is a serious situation that we have to look into. And we in the National Assembly, under my committee, we're going to definitely create or move on the floor that will have to invite those critical agencies that are responsible in coordinating, managing, and overseeing our critical assets in this country to discuss with them. And where necessary to sanction them, we're going to do it. Where necessary, we'll give recommendation to the executive for either change of the heads. We are going to do that because we just have to do it. Let me take you down to Abuja now, what we are facing in the capital city. It is so embarrassing that the whole of our street lights, the whole of the street lights in Abuja that is being powered now is being converted to solar-powered street light as against international standard. This is the only city we have. If you drive around the city now, you see street lights are being converted to solar. And these solar street lights, their life cycle is, some of them is just 8 months. Some of them is 1 year. Some of them is 2 years highest. Then you have to replace them again. And if you look at our budget for 2024, provision for solar street lights alone is running into billions of naira. It is unacceptable. And all goes, this goes down to the inability of the power sector for them to be able to protect the critical infrastructure, for them to be able to give what Nigerians are expecting from them. So a lot of things going wrong, a lot of things. Then the issue of the amendment to our laws. Yes, it is very critical. We're going to look into that in collaboration with the critical stakeholders so that we'll have the best laws that will appear to protect our national assets. And that is it for now. Thank you.
All right, Honorable Aruna, I'm very excited that some of these comments are coming directly from you, about the things that are going wrong. And, in some quarters, it has been discussed that the reason the power sector may not be allowed to thrive is because certain people in power are benefiting from, if you like, the ineffectiveness of, the power sector in general. But, thank you so much for your comments. Let's get back to Engineer Ajiboye. This looks like a chain. It's not just about the vandals themselves who go to vandalize these towers. It looks like they are being propelled from certain quarters. The example of the solar-powered, street lights, for example, is one. Some people talk about those who import generators, who are in the business of importing generators. And, of course, they don't want us to have steady power supply because they'll run out of business. And we know these people are not just the average Nigerian on the street. These are a top ruling class, if you like, political class doing this. But away from all of that, let's look at the group of people who would vandalize these towers, not because they want to sell or make gains. How far or how much do you enlighten or educate communities that host such infrastructure? Because we know that illiteracy could be a problem. There are some people who think that there are health implications of these kinds of things in their environment, and in the bid to protect themselves and their people, they say, well, let's take it down so that we're safe. But tell us about how safe these installations are around these communities where people reside, and how far you go about enlightenment and education.
Thank you very much once again. The risk of tower line is minimal. That is why we say there should be a healthy right-of way. The meaning is this. For a 330 kV, because of the electromagnetic waves during transportation of energy, if you get close to it, you will be hearing discharge. So based on that, the standard everywhere on 330 should be 50 meters away. After that, nothing. You are safe, completely safe. Though you can walk close to it, but what we discourage is from you living perpetually with it. So when we talk about 50 meters right of way, from the center of that tower, the big one, that is 330, you should have 25 meters this way, 25 meters this way. After that, you are safe. No problem. Even if the line snap, which is very rare, it can drop. We have instances. We have enough protection to take it out immediately. You will just hear only a bam sound, it will go off. Unless we want to try reclosure, because we have instances that the vandals go there to cause that. And we have been able to catch by trial reclosure, what we call trial reclosure. When they get close to the proximity of the line and we do reclosure, they either get electrocuted or get injured. We deter them by that. Apart from that, there is no danger for transmission line. More than you should respect the right of way. On 132 is 25 kilometers, 12.5 on each side of it. So we don't have any problem. That is why during the construction of the line, compensation is paid to move people away to save distance, which we do. And we try to enlighten them in our jingle that please don't stay right under the line. Move away from it because of the danger inherent in the electromagnetic waves of perpetually living with it. And the second one is not common but can happen. The line can snap and drop. And if it drop, you will be electrocuted. But if it drop and reach the head, that is the ground, it will trip immediately. Even if we still touch it will trip, but it would have killed the person. Those are the danger involved. But we made adequate provision for that by paying compensation for all the right of ways before we construct the line and move people away from it.
All right. Now, we've been talking about what the National Assembly can do by way of legislation. You have also talked about, the punishment not being enough to deter people who want to vandalize. But have you made recommendations? Have you engaged with the National Assembly, for instance, to say if we do this, it will help? I don't think that costs anything.
Yeah, directly we have not done that, but through the NSA, we have done that. And they are working on the legislation, as I told you. In the last meeting we had, Madam, I forgot to point out about some people benefiting from it. We quite agree, because I think there is, let me put it, gang up attempt either to bring the government in bad light, because I see no reason. Because community used to call us. Let me tell you, because we engage this community, I think we have instances that our staff have been detained on the line because they didn't go with branded vehicle that they used to see. We had problem with some of our vehicles. They have to go with other vehicle. They have to keep them there and call the most senior person till we went there to rescue them. So they do call our attention to this. But in some area, let me tell you another bad development in Benin area. They go there in the night with vehicle, but people will not be able to come out with generator. They are not ready to steal. It's not stealing. They cut the tower. I can show you picture. They will cut it with chainsaw, about 3 or 4 points. It has 4 footing. They will cut 3. They will go to another place. And you see, when we have serious tidal wind, it will pull it down and pull about 4 or 5.
But what's the motivation?
That is what I'm telling you.
So there'll be darkness.
They want to throw everywhere into darkness. Maybe they want to bring down the government, or they want to portray the government in bad light, or somebody that doesn't like TCN want to make sure, they want to show the government that they are not working. There is any agency that doesn't have enemy.
Oh, you have enemies.
There is any agency, because we don't know. We have not been able to identify, to even ask, what is your motive? Why are you bringing this tower down without stealing anything from it? So it do happen. So
I think you should go beyond asking, but investigating. You may just be assuming that they cut 3, leave 1.
No, we know they understand the logic. To be sincere with you, that if you cut 3 and there is serious wind, it will fall.
Really?
Yes. So when it's going down, it doesn't go down alone. They are very heavy, because we use the right material. We determine the wind zone to know the right material to use. If not, if you just construct a tower anywhere without the appropriate check of the weather, the tidal wind, everything, no matter, even if you stand, it will bend, it will tilt. So you need to monitor every environmental impact of that location before you design the tower that you are going to put there.
But looking at the level of damage happening to your installations, it looks like your enemies are much. And the sooner you address that
We have
aspect.
been addressing we have been addressing. We have been
Anyways,
calling people.
maybe now we know the real issue. Maybe the TCN is not doing something right, or maybe the TCN, is not being able to manage relations properly, and that is why it is the target and all this kind of destruction happening.
One of the things we've been recommending. I'm a member of the Risk Management Society of Nigeria, and we've been recommending that every organization should have a strong risk management framework, and I'm almost certain that TCN has. Yeah. But how effective is the risk management framework in identifying risk? Because risk, there are many. We've been discussing security risk, but there are other risks too that have some form of relationship with security risk. Operational risk as an example, political risk, regulatory risk. So I don't know the capacity of the risk management department within TCN, but maybe if I'm going to recommend to the ED, that's one area to look closely at in terms of improving the capacity of that unit. A good risk management framework will not only deal with existing risk, but can foresee, future risk and address it even before they occur. What kind of intelligence, internal intelligence now, not the security intelligence that police or NSC, and the others will, or even the NSA
identify the enemies within.
Remember I talked about internal risk. That's a separate issue altogether. When I'm talking about intelligence, understanding developments, how those developments can impact operations, and then dealing with them. So developments, for instance, political developments, power would be one of the selling points of any government. And if there's an enemy who wants to sabotage the government,
it's a vulnerable sector.
It can look at power. But that's not TCN's purview, as it were. But it affects TCN. So
because that's their business.
Exactly. That risk management department should be able to analyze that and say, look, we're noticing this development. This is what we need to do. Or this is our recommendation to you to manage that particular risk. And because there are so many of them, I can't really start and talk about it individually. But the solution is to have a strengthened, effective risk management department that doesn't only look at security risk, but look at all the other variants of risk.
Thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adamu. We are now running out of time, but we can take the last 2 minutes or thereabout to get to Honorable Ismail Dabo in Lagos to give us his closing remarks regarding the conversation so far. Please, Honorable Dabo, we have just about 2 minutes or so.
My final take on the issue is for the critical players to reunite and do the needful. The TCN, they have a lot to do in terms of protecting the towers. One, they should think out of box by having a robust intelligence through surveillance and modern technology. They have to do that. Yes, making use of local communities, it will be helpful or is helping them in their performance. But they need to do more, and they should also look into their revenue generation. Government cannot, the National Assembly cannot continue to budget public funds to them while we don't see result. Nigeria today, we need at least 30,000 megawatts of electricity daily. But what we are generating as a country today is less than 4,000 megawatts, which is a serious problem to us. And that is why we are where we are today in Nigeria. So many challenges. We're so backward in terms of economic development, in terms of employment,
Honorable
in terms
Haruna,
of critical.
thank you, Honorable
infrastructure.
Haruna. Because of time, we'd have to leave it at that point. Thank you for all your comments so far in the course of the program. I'd like Engineer Emmanuel Ajiboye to give us his final words as round of the conversation and tell us what's the generating capacity at the moment.
You see, we have two different versions. When you have installed capacity available to generate, is different from the actual generating capacity. Presently, we are hovering around 5,600. But you see, there are different sectors. Sorry, let me be. Generation is more than 12,000 the capacity. But what can the disco take? You don't generate and suspend it in the grid. You have to consume it immediately. So what the disco can take presently is what we are generating, which is about 5,600. We are targeting 6,000 by the end of this year. We need to invest in the disco. So the transmission capacity as a whole, as we have now, what we call is static. When we say static, is simulated generation is about 8,700 as of today. We are also targeted to go to about 10,000. So these are the different things you need to understand about the electricity distribution chain. So my final take is this. It's an appeal on behalf of all the market participants, both disco generation to the community, where they host our infrastructure. When you see something, please say something. Try to protect this asset for us for now. As we have been talking about drone, talking about this, how do you expect me to protect over 10,000 kilometers of line that is located around 250 meters apart?
Not you, TCN.
TCN. So,
TCN
thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much, Engineer Emmanuel Oluwagbenga Ajiboye, Executive Director, Transmission Service Provider, Transmission Company of Nigeria. It was a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you, madam.
And we hope that you deal with some of your enemies and take charge of your territory. All right, Dr. Kabiru Adamu, Security Risk Expert. It was nice to have you again with us. Always a pleasure having you on the program.
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much. And of course, Honorable Dabo Ismail Haruna, Deputy Chairman, House Committee on Critical Assets. Thank you so much for being a part of Good Morning Nigeria. And we need to thank Dr. Benito AZMNI, Assistant Commandant General, Critical National Asset and Infrastructures, Nigeria Security and Civil Defense Corps, who joined us in the course of the program. So that's Good Morning Nigeria today. Do your part. I'm Yanwe John. Have a great day.
And I'm Victor, as well. Enjoy the rest of your day.